You ready to do this, Matt?
Yes, sir. Punch it, Chewy.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, my co-pilot's Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 187. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us at the website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, I just gotta say, before we get going here on episode 187, I felt so stinking bad about the audio on episode 186. And I know that compared to the early days of this podcast, that still is a minor bump in the road, but I felt bad. Tim Router was on. We had a great conversation, and I had messed something up that previous weekend trying to get something set up for my streaming on Twitch. I was trying to do some stupid voice modulation stuff, and I think the setting jacked up my microphone, and it was forcing it to use my webcam mic. Anyway, at the end of the day, I apologize to the super friends. I do try to keep a certain level of audio quality here, and I feel like last week was less than our best, and so I want to apologize.
On behalf of everyone, we accept your heartfelt apology. Thank you.
That makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. How has your week been?
It was a pretty dang good week. There was lots of fun and anticipation for The Last of Us 2. Anytime there's a big movie or video game, I get excited.
Yeah.
And I told myself I had to beat Spider-Man before I could start with The Last of Us 2. Ooh. So Emmy really likes to watch me play Spider-Man. So she came into the office on Friday, the day The Last of Us came out. I took a break from work, and we sat down after I'd played it for a few days prior to get us to a point where I felt like we could finish it. And we finished it. So
nice.
We beat it Friday afternoon. After I took a picture of my copy of The Last of Us 2 and sent it to you.
Right.
I was still playing Spider-Man at the time, trying to beat it. So
after you beat Spider-Man, then going back and thinking about the reveal of the Miles Morales kind of like standalone kind of, almost full game. Then did that feel like, oh, okay, this feels a more solid connection?
Yeah, it made a lot more sense. Made me more excited for it, for sure. And then, of course, that must mean that on Friday night I played The Last of Us 2, which I did. And then I played The Last of Us 2 again last night. About two to 2.5 hour sessions where I told Jesse, this is what I want to do on Friday, and then on Father's Day in the evening. This is what I want to do, is have time to myself to play this game. And I won't say anything because I know that you're either haven't started yet or whatever.
No, I haven't started yet.
So I won't say anything. No inflection in my voice. Nothing. I will not give anything away.
I will say this for why I haven't started, because most of the super friends who are probably listening to this right now are thinking, what's going on? Because I loved The Last of Us, and I've been so excited for this second game. But due to the way the delay all happened, it came out on Friday. I already have a game that I'm streaming right now, which is the original Final Fantasy VII, after I beat the remake. I didn't want to start the game on the stream, only to then stop for the weekend, because I try to have a stream game that I only play on the stream.
Mm-hmm.
And if I started it and then I had to stop and wait a few days.
Right.
And then this week, I'm probably going to end up keeping my streams a little shorter, because then at the end of this week, we're going to be going up to Montana for the funeral and some vacation time. And so I know that the internet at the house up there isn't amazing for streaming. And with all the adults that are going to be there and all the devices that are going to be connected to the Wi-Fi, there's no way I'm going to have a solid enough connection to stream. There's just no way. So that would mean that I would then have to put it on hold for another week. So I decided that The Last of Us 2 is going to be my off-stream game that I probably will start up in Montana and play in the evenings after most people are gone to bed, or if we're sitting around and, not doing much of anything and the kids are all fine and playing or taking naps or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's my plan with The Last of Us 2. It's not exactly how I wanted to get to it, but it's where I'm at.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
You'll get there. Okay. Well, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay, good.
But that was kind of the big event. Honestly, like everything else was just me thinking about playing it. And this is funny because I know that people like you have been waiting for years to play this game with teases and announcements. And me, it's like, I just got turned on to this game, played it remastered, just finished it, 2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And then I got to have almost immediate continuity. It was beautiful.
So are you going to be able to finish it
before
Montana?
No way.
Okay.
No. My brother told me how long it took him to beat it. He's already beaten it.
Okay.
He told me how long it took him, and I was like, well, I know that I'm not as fast as you. And
gotcha.
There's no chance. I would have to play a lot. Which
some people took work off for it, things like that.
Yeah.
Which I typically don't take work off for video games.
Right.
So.
All right, so that was that. We went to the outlet mall on Saturday. The Disney store was open finally. We went and bought a bunch of stuff at the Disney store and bought a bunch of clothes at other stores and just kind of had a fun day out. And Father's Day was great. Got to sleep in. Jessie made food, muffins, good stuff. Had steak. She made creme brulee. It was a solid Father's Day.
Nice.
And then today was a big day because this was the first day that those of us with Disney World hotel reservations and tickets that existed prior to the shutdown of Disney World were able to make reservations for the parks that we were going to go to, because they now have limited capacity and you have to sign up to go to the park you want to go to on the day you want to go. So that's always stressful with Disney. You never know what's going to happen. It's like signing up for fast passes when you make a Disney World trip. You're trying to make sure you get the right times and everything, but we got everything we wanted, no problem, which is kind of what I expected.
Yeah.
It wasn't too big of a deal, and even now at the end of today, I think that most everything was still open through the whole year. Even at the beginning, opening day, I think they still had tickets for Magic Kingdom. Hollywood Studios was sold out for several days because that's got Star Wars and Toy Story, and I think people really are into Hollywood Studios now. But anyway, that was today, and now I'm here. I work sometimes and and hang out with my kids a lot and mess around with them and throw them around and play video games with them. I don't know.
Yep.
It was a good weekend. It was a good week. It was fun, and we're excited to get up to Montana. We'll see you up there.
Oh yes, and you'll be excited to see that copy of the Uncharted collection, the Nathan Drake collection coming your way.
I can't wait.
Oh, yes.
And then I can't wait to watch you. If you're there, I want to see some parts of The Last of Us 2, of course, as anybody would. Yeah. There's some parts I want to watch you play.
Here's the thing, Matt. I was thinking about this, is that I'm going to have the monitor set up in the back bedroom down in the basement with the PS4. We could take some time and just, pop in that old Nathan Drake collection and just sit back. And I'd sit there and watch you play that thing. I love that. I love those games so much.
You would laugh at my ineptitude.
But it's like you said, you got the same idea. You'd watch me play Last of Us. I'm like, I would totally play Last of Us 2 and even put the PS4 out on the big TV.
Yeah.
But I remember how The Last of Us was, and it's for mature audiences.
You don't want anybody walking in.
No.
Unexpectedly.
What is that? What's going on? Oh my gosh! You don't need that.
No. And this time it's in, made for PS4 graphics. I mean,
right, exactly.
It's brutal. It's fantastic. In its graphical outlook. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. No, I'm sure that technically I'm sure it looks amazing. Yes. So my week has been very interesting. I'll kind of rewind. I think the day after we recorded last week, Jackson had this one really, really, really wiggly tooth. And the dentist had said a couple days earlier that, like, it's really wiggly. It can come out at any time. And I got to the point where, like, he could, like, push on it and it was almost completely horizontal.
Oh, man.
Like, it was just like a little hinge door, like,
yeah.
And it would open up. I was like, dude, that's got to come out. Jackson fights like the Dickens. I mean, he fights like his life is on the line. And, like, we're trying to convince him and and finally I convince him and he lets me put the little dry washcloth to, like, dry the tooth off a little bit to get a little bit of a grip on it. And then I counted to 3 and pop. And, he cried just for a split second, and then he was fine. He bled a little bit. He stopped it. He was fine. Tonight, the one that was right next to it was also really wiggly. And tonight, I'm like, man, that thing just needs to come out, too. I'm like, oh, my gosh. And it was, kind of the same little trapdoor effect. And so he took about half an hour of convincing. He said he was going to do it, but then he would just sit there and tell us how scared he was and how he didn't want to do it. And I was just like, oh, kid. And so finally I was like, okay, we bribed him with all this other stuff. Like, we'll let you download 2 free levels, free worlds on Minecraft on your tablet. We'll let you have some extra snacks for the car trip, which we already have. We're going to, we'll let you, the Tooth Fairy's going to give you the $1 bill, but we'll let you have a McDonald's Happy Meal tomorrow. It was just stuff that was, like, easy to promise because it's not too far out of the norm that we could make happen. And so finally he let us do that after, like, wasting like half an hour. I got it in there and got a good grip on it, and it just slid right out. I mean, it just, like, there was almost, like, no resistance to this thing. I was like, ugh. And he's like, look, I did fine. And then, like, after he does this, like, after, like, half an hour of, like, him driving us up the wall with, like, the constant bickering over what he wants and he's too scared and whatnot, then he's in the bathroom with, like, a little wet towel in there kind of holding it, kind of soaking up a little bit of blood. And he's, like, dancing. He's like, I did it. It was easy. I'm like, what did you do? You just sat there. I did all the work.
Yeah.
Goodness, kid. And I'm not over here strutting my stuff and primping and preening, but he's over there just, ooh, 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 ooh. It was pretty funny. So we did that. So he's now missing his 2 top front teeth.
I can't wait to see that. That's going to be great.
It's, oh gosh, his little face is just so cute. And then the teeth thing, it's just adorable. It's just adorable. Friday night I was streaming, and I'm streaming, Final Fantasy VII, like I said, the original PS1 classic. And my buddy Jason messages me and says, hey, I'm thinking about going out to the Bonneville Salt Flats in order to get way far out and then take some photos of the Milky Way. Do you want to join me? And I was like, sure, cool. When? He's like, I think tonight's going to be the only night where there's no cloud cover. So at 8 o'clock at night, I shut down my stream and I grabbed, it was like 8:15. I was running a little late. I shut down my stream and then I grabbed just, a few things, tossed them in my pocket, drove about half an hour to meet him, and then we drove all the way out to the Bonneville Salt Flats, which is all the way in at the Utah-Nevada border, which is like a 2-hour drive from Salt Lake. And we gassed up, then we went out to the Salt Flats, and we ended up running into, like, this YouTuber who does astrophotography, and Jason recognized him just by the voice, because he's really kind of into this photography stuff. And so he kind of follows a bunch of YouTubers and podcasts and whatnot. Cool. And this guy was really, really super nice. His name was Aaron King. He's on YouTube. If you're into, like, astrophotography, like, that's his thing. Go check him out. But he just sat there and talked with us for a while. And was giving Jason some tips. And so we kind of walked around, found some good places, and we're talking photography, and we did that. And, of course, it was fantastic. And I got to see these amazing scenes of, all these stars and the Milky Way. And Jason took, some great shots, and has put one up on his Instagram, Jason Both Photography. Matt, you should really go check it out. It's cool. Like this amazing shot because he also has a little bit of water so it's reflecting it off the water on the surface than up in the sky. Anyway,
nice,
just fantastic. But we didn't get back till like 4 a.m, and so Saturday morning when my boys woke me up at 8, Daddy was tired. Daddy was very tired, and I wasn't grumpy. But then I had to go to work, and I had to work some because we did a Skype to Teams migration. I had to go log in all the conference room phones and come home, and man, by like 5 o'clock, 5:30 at night, I was ready to go to bed. I mean, I was just beat, super tired. And then we discussed Father's Day, and my wife asked me, like, what do you want? Do you want to get up early? I was like, no, I want to sleep in, which was like 8:30. Apparently.
Yeah, same here.
But we did have a good Father's Day. Brita got up. She made waffles and pancakes for me. And then the one thing that I decided that I wanted to do was I wanted to continue the Lego build of the Millennium Falcon. And I was going to stream it on Twitch because Jackson said he really wanted to do another Lego stream. So I got it all set up, and then Jackson didn't want to do it. And I was like, well, to heck with this. I'm still going to do it. And then Charlie came down maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes after I started. And he said, Daddy, can I do this with you? I was like, yes, please, because that's just what I wanted to do. I wanted to build Legos with my boys on Father's Day. Yeah. And we streamed it. And Charlie was there for a real good chunk. And then Jackson eventually came down and was kind of throwing a fit because then he wanted to be a part of it. And so we got Charlie to go upstairs and do something else, and I calmed Jackson down, and then he came and streamed with me. But it was really cool because another Twitch streamer, his channel name is Brick in Nick. He ended up rating my channel with 76 people. And he does Lego streams, then he also plays some video games. And so he came and brought over like these 76 people, and a big chunk of them stayed around for a long time. They were getting in there and chatting. They smashed the follow button. And so the Super Friend community on Twitch for the Fort of Nerd channel grew more and had a good chance to just like talk with people. And Jackson was having fun, and we did this like little impromptu like mini rave on stream because Jackson wanted to be like one of those DJ guys, like he said, so he was holding his hand to his ear and kind of pretending to spin a record. And so it was just a lot of fun. We were just laughing, having a good time. And I streamed for like 5.5 hours on Sunday, continuous. Dang. Just building this Lego. The Millennium Falcon build is super, super, super close to being done. So I may take one of my streams this upcoming week, and instead of playing video games, I may finish it off so it's done before we go to Montana.
Cool.
Just because we're close. Other than that, we watched The Way, Way Back, the movie that you've been hounding me to watch. And I got to say, it's a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. It's a comedy, but it's not like it's not a slapstick comedy. It's not, it's not like a dark comedy like Cable Guy, but it's kind of reminiscent of the movie Dan in Real Life, where like I found like Dan in Real Life was humorous and funny, but it also had some heart and it had some kind of real moments. And I kind of thought the same thing about The Way, Way Back. Like, it's funny, but it also has some real moments and touches upon some like real family issues that are going on. The only thing I gotta say though is that it's so hard to watch Steve Carell be the jerk.
Oh yeah.
And he plays it well because you just want to punch the guy.
Yeah, you hate him.
You just hate him in that movie. But it was a real good movie. We did enjoy it. And Brita actually said as we were watching, she's like, "Oh yeah, I think I have seen this movie before." Because I didn't know it came out in 2013.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And she'd forgot about it. I was like, "Oh, this movie's like 7 years old." I'm like, "I thought it was made like 2 years ago or something." So anyway, we watched that this week. We're still watching Community, and then the other night we've started watching some of Queer Eye.
Yay!
Because we've watched the other seasons. We're on the current season. And then someone kept talking about this show called 90 Day Fiancé.
Oh gosh.
And it's this like TLC
Did you see
show.
Big Ed?
Huh?
He's one of the famous ones, Big Ed.
No, I haven't seen him. We're watching the first season. I think we're like halfway through that first season.
Okay.
Britta's like, let's check it out. And I was like, yeah, this seems kind of
It's hard to watch.
It's hard to watch. It's
really
so cringy.
man.
And then, of course, like, the first guy up is like, I met this girl. She's Brazilian. I met her in Brazil.
Yep.
I'm a Mormon. And I met her when I was on my mission, and I started like doing some math because she's like 21 and he's like 29. I'm like, all right, so either he went.
Don't do that math.
I know. I was like, either he went when he's like Mormon missionaries kind of usually go around 18, 19, or maybe he hopefully went a little later in life because I know a Mormon mission is 2 years because I went on one, and part of me said, either he went later in life, when he was a little older, and this is above board, or he went when he was like, 18, 19, 20.
She's like 12.
And she's like, 13 or something. I'm like, oh gosh, this just, like, the cringe factor, like, as I'm doing the math, and I'm like, I could be off by a lot, or I could be right on the money. This could either be either be like totally a non-issue, or it's totally creepy.
Yeah.
There's no gray area in this math equation here. And so it's just like, and then I felt so like, okay, anyway, she comes to the States, he goes to Brazil, he gets her, brings her back, and he's like, since we're Mormon, we don't believe in sex before marriage, so she's going to go stay with my parents because we want to separate. We just want to make sure that we're not tempted to do anything, and we want to wait till after we're married, And I'm like, and I'm watching this thinking, she is literally crying because she's homesick and just left her entire family, and she's got 90 days to come up here, get married, and then he immediately shuffles her off with her soon-to-be in-laws, and he's not even there. I was just like, oh, this poor girl. Anyway, super cringy.
Yep.
But you can't stop watching it. Oh,
that's how those things get. You can't.
No, like away. I know, and I was just like, oh, I don't know. Like we watched like 3 of them. Next thing I know, it was like midnight. I'm like, dang it! I thought I was going to go to bed early. So anyway, that's kind of some of the stuff I'm watching. I am still playing Final Fantasy VII, the classic. I'll be playing that all this week over on Twitch, maybe a Lego stream. Go give me a follow. Twitch.tv/FordofNerds79. Pound that follow button and become a super friend over there as well. I would appreciate it. We have a good time. We laugh. We make fun of ourselves, and it's just generally a family friendly fun stream. So that is my week. A lot's been going on.
Yeah, I failed to mention that my anniversary was on Saturday. It was also a great part of my weekend. So that was
Did you forget about your anniversary prior to it as well?
No, we had discussions about it because we're doing our big Disney trip. So we think that we're doing the big one because it's our 5th year. Okay. So this is our big 5-year anniversary trip. So we didn't get each other anything or do anything like that. But anyway, just failed to mention. We had an anniversary on Saturday, and it was
so funny,
important one, and that was great.
We hit our 11-year anniversary earlier this month, and since we just took our big Hawaii trip in March, that basically was our 10-year anniversary celebration. We didn't really do anything for our anniversary either. Like we literally just got some takeout and like ate some dinner when the kids were asleep and watched a movie or something, because it's hard to do a lot right now. There's not a lot of things open, and you can't do a lot of big things and whatnot. So congrats on the 5 years. Congrats. That's a nice mark to hit. You're halfway to a decade, and then from there it's the rest of your life. I mean, really, it's the rest of your life since the day you said I do, but
especially at 10 years.
Especially you start looking back and be like, it's been a decade?
Yeah.
Wow. And then you look back and you're like, we got a house and we got kids and it's been 10 years. And then you look forward and you're like, yep, this is still the rest of my life. We're cool. Hopefully. I mean, I hope you're cool. Okay, good. Good. Jessie doesn't listen to this. We're fine. She's not going to know that we're...
Jessie's great.
Yeah, we're good. All right, Matt. I think it's time we get to Rebel Intelligence, and I feel like the Bothans are going to be generous with us this week.
Oh, good.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you boffins.
All right, Matt, we are into Rebel Intelligence. We have once again slaughtered Bothans, and I feel like we have an extra jam-packed Rebel Intelligence this week.
We do. We have quite a few things. I think you better start us off this week.
I better start us off. Yeah. All right. As we know, super friends here at the Fortress of Nerditude, I always have the unfortunate position of bearing bad news when it comes to deaths. So, a sad day to report that one of the stars of Alien, Brazil, Lord of the Rings, and as my wife said, he was in what is it? He was in Shakespeare's like Midsummer's Night Dream back in the 60s and whatnot. Ian Holm, who plays Bilbo in the Lord of the Rings movies. He also did reprise that role in the Hobbit as the older Bilbo again. He passed away just a few days ago. He was 88 years old. He passed away from complications due to Parkinson's. Over the course of his lifetime and in his acting career, he got to like act alongside like these big names like Sean Connery and Audrey Hepburn, Robert Shaw, and then he was in this movie, this science fiction movie about some astronauts and the space crew, and they find this egg, and it's alien, and he plays a fantastic role. And this is like 1979 is when that movie came out, and it really kind of like helped kind of put him out there again, and a lot of people knew him from that. And then of course, most recently, I think most of the younger generations are going to know him as Bilbo Baggins from Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. He, to me, even though I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, he to me is going to be Bilbo Baggins, I think, till the day I die.
Yeah.
He played the role beautifully. He encompassed the character that I knew from the books that were translated to the screen. And so it's sad to think that Bilbo Baggins is gone. Ian Holm has passed away, and 88 years old. I mean, he'd lived a good life and done a lot in Hollywood, and so our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, at this sad time. But we are happy that he was able to share his talents with us and with the world.
Absolutely. I just finished, like I'd never seen Alien until maybe a month ago, and we talked about it on this podcast briefly. Yeah. I did not know he was in that until you said that.
Yep.
And then I just looked at pictures and I was like, oh, well, that's why I didn't notice, because holy crap. There's a huge difference between Bilbo Baggins in whatever year, 2001, versus 1979. Right. There's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, we're talking, 20-some years, and films look completely different now than they did then. And on top of that, a sci-fi setting compared to a high fantasy type of setting.
It's different.
Just kind of different.
Nice.
Okay. The other death.
Oh, you've got more?
I've got more.
Spencer, come on.
I've got more. The other death is the director of Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, Joel Schumacher. So, Joel Schumacher lost a lengthy fight against cancer that he'd been fighting over this kind of past year or so. He obviously gave us things like the bat nipples. We got the bat nipples on the bat suit in those movies. But he also was... his voice was in The Wiz. He was a writer that adapted The Lost Boys, and he did that. He also was involved with the Phantom of the Opera. Like, Joel Schumacher has done a lot. He's been around in a lot of things. He's written, he's produced, he's directed. I mean, he was involved in things like A Time to Kill and Flatliners and Phone Booth, just a bunch of different things. And so sadly, he has passed away as well at the age of 80. So once again, our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and we are grateful for his contribution to cinema.
All right. Well, I will...
Minus maybe the bat nipples. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that. I'll flip this around and go a little more lighthearted as we push through Rebel Intelligence. So there is a trailer that dropped this week for, I believe, a movie.
Yes.
Called Palm Springs.
Yes.
And it has Andy Samberg, whom,
yes.
I mean, who doesn't love Andy Samberg? And Kristen Milioti, who, I mean, spoilers for How I Met Your Mother, but you can't have
she's the mother
for that. She's
yeah.
it's over. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so those two play across each other in this silly, crazy crossover between, I mean, it's Groundhog Day and Edge of Tomorrow, Happy Death Day, all those movies where it's a time loop. So this is, it looks, they don't get, I mean, it's a trailer, so you don't get a whole lot other than you figure out, okay, this is an infinite time loop movie where Andy Samberg has been living in a time loop for a period of time. Yeah. And his counterpart, played by Kristen, who comes and Christy gets sucked into this time loop somehow, and we don't have all the answers, and then she's living it as well. So they live it together now in this infinite time loop where he knows all the rules, he knows all the answers, and she tries to, kill herself, and that doesn't work, of course, and then they try. Yeah. Anyway, so it looks like a hilarious, silly, ridiculous, kind of new play on the time loop. I mean, the fact that someone's already been living it for a period of time and someone else is brought into it is the first time I think that I'm aware of that we've seen that, really, and no one else around knows or understands it. Right. So this is going to be...
It does feel like Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a lesson they have to learn, right? Because there's always a lesson that they have to learn. This one just looks like it's almost, it sounds stupid, almost based in science, in that there's some weird vortex they get sucked into at some point in that trailer where you're like, okay, something weird's happening here that also goes into this, not just, they learn to love each other and that's the end of the movie. So we'll have to figure all of that out as we go, but it looks super funny. The chemistry looks great already. This is going to air on Hulu. Yeah. A Hulu exclusive on July 10th.
Which is a big get for Hulu. And I'll tell you why, because we are in this coronavirus pandemic still, and there's not movies that are really opening in movie theaters yet. And we talked about this a little while ago when we were talking about the Karate Kid Season 3, about how it's pretty much done, and there's a bidding war to kind of find out like who's going to pick it up and who's going to give it a fourth season. This thing was done. It was debuted, I think, at the Sundance Film Festival, or maybe Cannes. It was at one of the film festivals, and it got like a standing ovation. Everyone loved it, and then it was picked up, and someone bought it, and so the fact that Hulu's going to have some new content that would have probably gone to the movie theaters, and they're going to be able to show that's a big get for them. That's important. And also, it looks freaking hysterical. Yeah, it looks funny. Good. So I'm excited. I think you said July 10th is when it comes out.
Correct.
Something to look forward to when we get back from Montana.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Looks good.
All right, I'm going to talk about more death. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
But this time I'm talking about the death of a service, thankfully, and not someone. Okay. So Microsoft, if you recall, has had a streaming platform that is supposed to be competing with Amazon's Twitch. It's called Mixer. And if you remember earlier this year, I think we reported on, maybe end of last year, we reported how Mixer had lured Ninja away, Tyler Blevins, who goes by the handle Ninja. And we took a guess that we thought maybe it was like $10 million to bring him over because he had a very, very lucrative career going on over at Twitch. Oh, yeah. And he had something like over 1 million followers. And when he left, a lot of those people left to go with him and follow him. Microsoft now, I mean, we're talking less than a year after that deal, has decided that they're shutting down Mixer and they're going to transition the users over to Facebook Gaming. So this is kind of a weird thing.
Crazy.
So Microsoft is saying that it's not a buyout. Facebook's not saying it's a buyout, but they've announced that it's going to partner. They're going to move all the users off of Mixer to go over to Facebook Gaming. Mixer's going to wind down its services. I think they've got about another month, and then Mixer will be completely dead. Everything will redirect over to Facebook. Microsoft's Project xCloud is going to be kind of I think some of the back-end stuff that's going to be working for Facebook Gaming. Here's the thing, though. You have an option, if you actually, as a follower, as a subscriber, you have the option of whether or not you want to be transitioned over to Facebook Gaming or not. And then here's the other thing. Big people that they lured over, like Ninja, that got these huge lucrative contracts, all the creators are basically free to go do whatever they want to do. So if they want to go over to Facebook Gaming, they totally can. But here's the thing. Facebook Gaming isn't a big service. Mixer was trying to get its feet underneath it and make it a big service. But it really, really wasn't. I mean, they got Ninja, which was huge for them.
Right.
But it seemed like with kind of this big push that Xbox and Microsoft is making to get gaming as a service and get, subscriptions to their Game Pass and all this, like, you just think that they would really be going all in on some of these, gaming related things and having their own platform and trying to get people to come over. And I mean, it could have been a big push for them, but instead they're pulling the plug on it. I think a guy like Ninja, I think instead of him gambling on whatever Facebook's going to look like, I think he's going to go right back to Twitch. And I think Twitch is going to open their arms up and welcome him back in, because when he left, it left a bit of a hole at the top. And there's a couple others that left. And of course, people that are loyal to that platform stuck around. But a lot of people are there because of Ninja. So we don't know. There's no official word. We have to wait and hear. But my guess is we're going to hear, before too long, the Ninja's back on Twitch.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I agree completely. It is kind of surprising and interesting, and it seems like it really wasn't that long ago that this whole Mixer deal went down, and so much money. I don't know. I agree though with you. I mean, I don't know what his contract looks like.
Well, that's the thing, is they said that the creators have the ability to go wherever they want to go. So basically, I think they're saying, like, look, there's probably some language in there that said, you signed a contract that's exclusive with us, but if we sell or do anything else, that breaks contracts. And that's fairly standard, I think, because I know in my own industry, our former owners of our company, they sold their company to a larger company, and they signed some sort of a deal that said, like, they would stay on for a number of years.
Okay.
Well, then our parent company got bought by another parent company, and all of those deals were invalidated. Not invalidated like they were gone, but just saying, like, all of the contracts saying you have to stay for this level, that's all gone. And a lot of them now have decided to move on, go do other things with their lives, go enjoy retirement, whatever. So it's kind of the same thing here, in a way. They're releasing all current obligations to their streaming content creators.
All right.
So we'll see.
All right.
The death of Mixer.
Cool. Okay. I've got something. Of course, you remember the movie The Martian?
Of course, yes.
A great movie. The author of the book, Andy Weir.
Yeah.
Is writing another book. And people in the movie industry are beginning to get involved in the story about this book that doesn't come out till 2021, but we've already got some information that Ryan Gosling is going to star, Phil Lord and Chris Miller are going to direct, and Drew Goddard is likely to write. So this is called Project Hail Mary.
Okay.
For now.
Yeah.
We know little tiny bits of details. We're going back to space. It's an astronaut who wakes up with no recollection of how he got there. It says all he knows is that his fellow crew members are dead and he's going to have to save the world. So, we've got this book coming out in 2021, a movie coming out probably shortly thereafter, if we've already got all of these moving pieces. We've got a writer, a director, and a star. It's interesting to me because I don't necessarily follow things all that closely as it pertains to adaptations, books to movies, movies to books, whatever direction those things may come in. But it's strange to me that we're investing in a product that has yet to come out. And it's one thing when it's like a series.
Yeah.
Like when Harry Potter, just the movies and books, the deal for the movies was made well before the book series was finished. Nobody knew where this was going to go or the direction it was going to take, except for J.K. Rowling, and she may have shared it with some studio execs. But that makes some sense to me because there's a continuous story for a very popular franchise. This is just like, for me, I'm just surprised, I guess. I'm not behind, I'm not in the inner workings, but I mean, it's not a proven commodity. I mean, there's only been one movie made by this guy or a book written, and it's just surprising. But big names, those are big freaking names. Anyway, very interesting.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's exciting to see that there's interest in things because it kind of just feels like Hollywood just kind of ground to a halt. But like now we're starting to get more news, more leaks. People are talking about things that are starting to get into development or that have been in development for a while. It's just like it feels that industry is really starting to ramp back towards, somewhat of a normalcy. So
yeah, and I wonder if we're going to see an influx of movies as far as things that have been written. Because people who write screenplays and stories, they've had time to do it with very few other distractions and commitments. The same with musicians. I'm hearing about a lot of musicians who have sometimes 2 records written during this pandemic. So I wonder if we'll see just a massive influx at the end of this year and then all through next year of these projects and news and music and movies and video games and all of that. It'll be interesting to see some of the things that come out of this. Good things can come out of horrible situations, and I think we're going to see that here with this pandemic as well. Good things coming out of it. People being creative and cool with their time. Yeah.
Well, speaking of good things, Matt, I want to talk about an injustice that happened, and we have seen justice and some retribution, and things have been put back to their proper order, and it's about dang time.
Oh, man, tell me more.
So, in 2018, the world record holder Billy Mitchell was stripped of his title of the first person to ever get the million-point game. He was stripped of his original high score back in 1982 that no one beat until 2007 when Steve Wiebe, who was one of the characters in the Donkey Kong A Fistful of Quarters documentary, beat it. Because there was some questions to the legitimacy of his claims by Twin Galaxies. And Twin Galaxies is this kind of like, this like company that kind of helps track high scores. And they're kind of this close, tight-knit group, but they're also kind of a really toxic group, or some of their members can be. And there was some suggestion that Billy Mitchell had cheated to get his scores where they were. And Guinness, the world record holders, the Guinness Book of World Records, they used Twin Galaxies as their official source for all video game scores.
Yeah.
Twin Galaxies went through and said, no, we have reason to believe that you cheated. So not only are we removing the in-questioned record, but we're going to strip you of all your records. He was the first person to get the Donkey Kong kill screen, first million game, the first person to set the high score, which was like 87,382. This has been corrected. So what had happened was Billy Mitchell decided to fight this, and he said, like, no, I did these things legitimately. And so after a whole bunch of eyewitnesses, re-examining of expert testimonial, re-examining of original records, all of his original records have been reinstated by the Guinness Book of World Records, and Twin Galaxies has restored all of his scores and accomplishments and achievements as well. So Billy Mitchell is once again the original owner of the high score and the kill screen and the 1 million point game. Now, obviously, if you watch Donkey Kong: A Fistful of Quarters, you know that in that documentary, they definitely portrayed him as...
He's a jerk.
As the vengeful antagonist, and Steve Wiebe as the everyman that you want to see overcome him. And he does, and he beats them and comes real close to beating him. And then, of course, then Billy Mitchell shows up with a videotape of a 1 million point game, and they accept that, and so Steve Wiebe's no longer the winner. And then eventually he comes back and he wins. It's this whole drama. It is a great documentary. If you haven't seen it, even if you don't like video games, which you don't need to like video games, it's just a great story about an everyman trying to overcome the behemoth that is the record holder sitting at the top, and kind of a down on his luck guy. So anyway, this has been reversed. Justice has been restored. What's interesting, though, is that Steve Wiebe has been retired from the competitive Donkey Kong scene for a number of years. And just 2 weeks before the reinstatement happened, Steve Wiebe announced he's going to come back out of retirement, and he's going to once again go after the Donkey Kong high score. So, here's the thing. I believe that the current record holder is another gentleman right now, and I don't remember his name. If I see it, I'd remember it. Maybe it's something Lee. I don't have it right in front of me. But with Steve Wiebe coming back, with Billy Mitchell just being reinstated, I think we're going to see some drama in this old arcade kind of industry that still has this competitive life. I mean, Billy Mitchell's he's a huge figure, key personality and promoter of esports, because he was one of the first ones out there kind of doing that. And so I think there's more to this story, and I love the drama of this. It is like a soap opera. It is like a wrestling match. It's just, it has my attention, and I want more.
Well, it doesn't have that much attention from me.
You are dead inside. You are dead inside, man, I swear.
It was interesting. I did enjoy the documentary. I haven't followed at all since, but I did like the documentary. Every
few years, something pops up, and every time I see it, I'm like, yep, that goes in Rebel Intelligence.
Talking
I want to talk about
it.
Yep.
You mean every time a Bothan comes by and you get information?
Exactly.
You don't search the internet for these things. This is real Bothans.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Naturally. All right, so I've got some good news.
Okay.
Thinking of things coming back. The Witcher, the TV show from Netflix, is reuniting, as they say, on set August 17th.
Ooh, so
production will resume, come back. So, like you mentioned earlier, we're starting to see some gears turning. And last week we talked about Jurassic World also resuming. Yeah. I think this summer will be quite busy for filmmakers. It would appear. So anyway, that was a fun little tidbit, little nugget for everybody to chew and chomp on and get excited about, because it's coming for you. It's coming.
Interesting. I am all on board with that. And I think, didn't we say that it was going to be sometime in like late fall, maybe, or sometime before the end of the year? They're thinking season 2 is going to come.
So that was the original plan. I think everything's kind of up in the air, and I think we're kind of expecting early 2021 now.
Okay.
Instead of at the end of this year, unfortunately.
Okay. I gotcha. Well, I've got some of probably the best news to come out of the Bothans this week, because we got a lot of death and a lot of sadness and a lot of weirdness. But this Super Friends, this is gold, solid gold. It's the goldiest of gold that's ever been gilt. So, if you recall, for a long time now, there's been talks of the Ezra Miller version of a Flash movie. Ezra Miller obviously plays Barry Allen, the Flash, in Justice League and in Batman v Superman. And earlier this year, there was a moment where he actually appeared on the TV show The Flash for this Crisis on Infinite Earth, and it was the first time where we actually saw the DC kind of Arrowverse, the TV verse, meet someone from the movie verse. And if you know the Flash story, you know that that there's this, Infinite Earth crisis, and that he goes back to a time and something changes, and it kind of links these worlds. And anyway, a whole bunch of hijinks can ensue. So we know that this movie's going to happen, this Flash movie, and big news being reported by two different sources. Michael freaking Keaton is in talks with Warner Brothers right now to reprise his role as the Dark Knight, coming back as Bruce Wayne for this movie. We don't know if it's going to be a big storyline. We don't know if it's going to be a little one, but it looks like he's going to be bringing back his version of Batman, meaning that when we get this Crisis on Infinite Earths movie, that we know specifically we're going to be tying back the current version where Ben Affleck is Batman to the Michael Keaton version of Batman. I don't know if that's going to affect the TV version or anything else, but oh my gosh, Bruce freaking Wayne, Michael Keaton, that is my favorite version of Batman. Even if it's only, Matt, a small bit, I love it. I want to see this. I don't care what it costs. DC, for the love of all that's holy, Warner Brothers, do this right, make this happen. It may be something where he comes back as an older version and he's going to train up the Barbara Gordon to be Batgirl, because we know there's a Batgirl movie coming down the road somewhere. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and I want to see this done, and I love Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne and Batman. Yeah,
I mean, I love Michael Keaton, and it feels like he's been busy lately. Yeah. It feels like he's been in quite a few things that I've been really excited about, because he plays such a good everything he plays. And this is huge. This is an easy home run. Why haven't we done this yet? This should be a done deal. They pay him whatever it takes to pay him. Look, if you're looking to invigorate a dying, frustrating universe, which is what the DC universe is.
True.
You inject some Michael Keaton Batman from 1989. Like, it's easy.
Yep.
This is easy. And I'm hoping it's true that kind of the things that I've read a little bit about it, that he could be a Nick Fury-esque figure as it pertains to obviously the Avengers for Nick Fury, but whatever the heck we're going to see with this Crisis Infinite Earth thing, whatever. I don't know anything about the DC universe. However, when it's compared to the Marvel universe, I can understand it.
Yep.
I'm loving that idea of a mentor, Michael Keaton playing Bruce Wayne. I think the expectation is he's not going to play Batman at all.
Yeah,
at any point.
Probably not.
That makes sense to just keep him. I don't know. The possibilities make me super excited. Yeah. And then I remember it's Warner Brothers, and I go, oh gosh, they're gonna F it up.
Right, because the Crisis on Infinite Earth starts with the Flashpoint storyline, and that's what this Flash movie is going to be. He goes back in time, changes something, and it changes everything. And so, and then he tries to go back and change that to like fix it and put things right. It's time travel, the potential to continue to like butterfly effect, change things and make things, it's so good. There's so many possibilities. Here's the thing. I don't think Michael Keaton wanted to go back into this role for a long time, because I don't think he wanted to be typecast. I think he wanted to kind of stay away from it, because he did those movies and then he did other stuff like he did in the 90s, like Multiplicity and, other things. And I don't think it really was until he did Birdman, where he was like a serious actor who in his earlier career had played some sort of superhero.
Right.
And he was still trying to kind of shake that, but, be a serious actor. That I think he started becoming a little more open to the idea, because then he went on to play the Vulture in the Spider-Man Homecoming movie and returned again to a superhero film, this time as a villain. And so I think maybe he's done enough in his career, and it's been long enough that he feels going back to a character he played years and decades ago, he could do it fresh, because it's going to be a different story and maybe an older version of Bruce Wayne. And so it will be the same character, but it'll also be a different iteration of that same character.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see how they do that and how they explain that. Because I'm a simple man. You have to remember that. And I go, wait,
Right.
Bruce Wayne and Batman, that's Ben Affleck in this universe. And I would take an old Michael Keaton Batman over Ben Affleck any day of the week.
Well, it was kind of interesting because, Ben Affleck is kind of playing the older version of Batman in this. So anyway, super exciting news. That's the last thing I had in Rebel Intelligence. Matt, did you have anything else?
I'm out.
Okay, so let's move on. Last week, Matt, we had this great conversation about the PlayStation 5 reveal, the games that were shown,
Yes.
and we asked the Super Friends the question of the week, is the PS5 a day one purchase? And then the bonus was, what do you think it's going to cost? And we got some answers, so we're going to get through them.
Let's hear it.
Let's start over on email, like we always do, fortofnerd@gmail.com. We have Peter Christensen. He says, Dear Nerds, Spencer, I guarantee that you'll become much more familiar with Minecraft. All three of my kids have gone through Minecraft phases, and my youngest still in it. I haven't become an expert, but it's a good way to spend time with the kids on their terms. They have learned that 1, I will only play creative mode. 2, I don't know how to craft anything. 3, I'm pretty slow and uncoordinated. And 4, I mostly just dig tunnels underwater or through mountains. It's dorky dad Minecraft and it works for us. And then you proceeded to talk about video games for 2 hours. Happy Thursday. Cheers, Peter Christensen. So I will take that to mean Peter is not going to be buying a PlayStation 5 day one.
What if he just really comes around to it? And he's like, oh yeah, day one, $1,000, no problem. I am in.
If Peter Christensen were to go out and buy a PS5 day one to try out video games and give it a go, I would want to hug the man for trying something new.
Yeah.
B, I would want to give him a whole bunch of video games from probably this current generation to start on first. And C, I think I would just be, floored by it and I wouldn't believe it. But
it'd be great.
But you know what? There's always hope that we can turn people that aren't gamers into a gamer of some sort, slowly but surely. I'm working on Brita. Eventually, I think I'm going to get her there. We'll see, though. We'll see. We'll go over to Twitter, where we're at Fort of Nerd, and we've got a bunch of answers over here tonight. So let's start here with Tim Paulin at TPaulin20. He says, not day one for me. Perhaps if there's a sweet trade-in deal to get it below the $499 price point, I believe it will be. And that's only if there's full backwards compatibility with PS4. So he's saying no, unless he can get a good trade-in, and it's a $500 price point or under, and backwards compatibility. So there's a few stipulations there for Tim in order to get it day one.
Yeah.
BS at Brian at Braves B _ this is my buddy Brian. He says, so far, no. I need a big exclusive to merit day one. If Final Fantasy VII Remake were delayed to PS5, that would have been an example of one that would sell the system for me. An expanded Spider-Man will be good, but that won't make me spend the $600 the PS5 will cost.
Okay.
So Brian says he thinks it's going to be $600, and that the expanded Spider-Man is just not enough day one. I might be there with Brian.
I can't disagree.
Yeah. 846, I Can't Breathe at DSpin67 says, day one, I'm on the fence until I hear the price. I have so many games to still get through on my PS4. With it being summer and wanting to be out and about, it's going to be hard to get through. Soon to be wifey already asked me if I was getting one, so there's that. He thinks it's going to be $4.99 for the disc version and $3.99 for the digital version.
I've heard that a few places as well this week, so
it's not
completely out of left field.
I like the sound of that price point for sure.
Yeah, me too.
I think they're going to be taking a bath on the machine, but
it's okay.
Bernabe,
I like baths.
I mean, right? What's good for us, not them, right? Yeah. Bernabe Butters at Dantes_Belmont said, "I want a collector's edition, possibly Miles Morales, maybe. Hopefully there will be something day one. I'm hoping under $600, perhaps $450 for the digital and $550 for the disc version."
Okay.
For $550 and $450, I mean, it's kind of not off my $600-$500 prediction.
Right.
$50. I would love a all black version Miles Morales with maybe like the Spider-Man logo, Miles Morales like in red on it or something. Some of the mock-ups we saw that totally fooled us. But I would get that day one.
Right.
Just for the collector's edition. I don't usually buy collector's editions, but right now, if that was the only way to get an all-black version of it, done and done.
Right.
Take my money. Patrick Novacell, Hollywood Bones, at Nova Beyond, says, yes, it's a day one purchase, and $4.99 is what he thinks the disc version is going to be. He says, if it's $5.99, I'm still buying. We earmarked part of the stimulus check for whatever the cost, so we are prepared.
Nice. Smart. That's thinking big brain over here.
I love that Pat's just like, nope, I'm in day one. All in, we're going. I love it. Eric Baker at Lombax Whisperer says, I don't see myself getting one this year. I'm thinking $500 for the disc version and $450 for the digital version.
Okay. I think that's what I said, but I don't actually remember what I said.
I just really wonder if they're only going to go $50 cheaper for the discless version.
I don't know.
The Oddball Aussie at Aussie Oddball says, if I can get it in the first wave, I will, and I'm guessing $7.99 Australian. He's in Australia.
Gosh, I about lost my mind. I don't know what that converts to over here, but it better not be $799. Well, I am out.
Why don't you do the conversion for me while I'm still reading the next one? What is the US to Australian dollar conversion? Because $7.99 Australian. Whew.
553.
Okay, so $550 US.
That's not a surprise. Okay.
Okay.
I'm in.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Right. With $7.99 sounds crazy. Then you're like, oh, wait. Not USD, AUD. Okay, got it. John at Sir John 11 says, depends on the games. I primarily play Xbox and have PS4 for exclusives only. Well, I mean, go back and look at all those games they talked about. I mean, I think they showed off 26 games during that conference. 21 of them are either only exclusive to Sony or, Sony/PC or some sort of timed exclusive. So there's a lot of games, and I think there's going to be other big games that weren't named coming later, but it just really depends on what kind of games you like. Ranma 1/2 podcast at Half Ranma says, nah, I'll wait for the first Christmas deal. Do you think
that's going to be in like 2 years?
Right.
It's not going to be this year.
It won't be this year. No, I agree. There will not be a Christmas deal.
Maybe next year.
They're going to release it, my guess, a week before Black Friday, because they're going to want to get all the Black Friday sales they possibly can when people go out and buy for Christmas.
Yep.
And so they're not going to do a deal right before Christmas this year. Nope. No. Christmas the following year, 2021.
Maybe they'll package it with a game. I don't see prices being slashed, though. But again, I could be wrong. I'm coming from a Nintendo side, though, where they never discount their systems.
Nintendo never discounts.
So I'm used to never seeing discounts.
Yep.
But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know, Matt. I have watched the internet this last week, and it seems to be the $500 for the disc version and either $400 or $450 for the all digital version seems to be kind of the going price. There was a leak over in France on like Amazon France or something or whatnot that kind of showed something to that effect. Whether it's accurate or not, we don't know. It could have been a placeholder.
Sure.
But eventually, either Microsoft or Sony's going to have to blink and name the cost of their console. Someone's going to have to blink first. This is just it's going to have to happen.
Yep.
Because there's lots of people that are going to need to start saving up their money if they're not already doing so, and it's hard to know how much you need when we don't know what it costs.
Yes, sir.
Just saying.
Truth.
All right, Matt. That's all we have for the answers. A lot of good ones. We'll have to see what happens. So, Super Friends are helping us out each and every week. They're showing up for us here on the podcast. They're showing up over on Twitch. How can they continue to support us this week?
So, always, as you do every week, in and out, all the time, listen, answer the question of the week, subscribe, like. You'll get us downloaded right onto your freaking phone if you so choose, automatically. It'll just happen. Leave us a review. 5 stars, 4 stars. Not 1, but maybe 2. I mean, if you don't like it, then that's your deal. But please do those things. Hang out with Spencer on Twitch at Fort of Nerd 79.
Yep.
Subscribe. If you got Amazon Prime, you can sign up for Twitch for free and then subscribe to Spencer, and he gets a little bit of love, a little kickback. It doesn't cost you nothing.
You can do that once a month to any streamer. It doesn't have to just be me, but if you choose me, that's great. I'm
promoting you. Okay. I'm the one in charge.
Okay.
And that's what you can do for us this week. That's just enjoy the family, enjoy your friends. I don't want to, divulge too much about the discussion, but spend some time with people you love.
Yep, I agree.
Even if it's virtually, because you can't be together right now. But hey,
that's right.
Do what you can.
It works. It all works. So, Matt, yesterday was Father's Day.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. My dad's not around. Mm-hmm. My dad passed in 2002. It was 18 years ago. And I always kind of, I think of him on Father's Day, obviously. But I always, around Father's Day, I start thinking of, what kind of a father I am to my kids. Am I doing the things that I want to be doing? Am I teaching them the things that I want to be teaching them? Am I teaching them the things my father taught me, whether it was good or bad, the things my father taught me? Because a little bit of both, right? That's kind of how fatherhood is. But I thought that we should continue on the Father's Day for just a bit longer, and we should talk about things we want to teach our children that we've seen fathers in either TV shows or movies either exemplify or teach. Some of these lessons that are great lessons, but we've emulated them or we've seen them in TV and movies, and then something that our father taught us that we want to continue and pass on to our children.
Yes.
So that's kind of the idea, the impetus behind our Father's Day kind of discussion. I didn't want it just to be nerd pop culture only. I wanted it to have a little bit of personality, of things that are meaningful to us. So we will start with the nerd pop culture things, and then we'll end on the personal thing. Is that okay?
Sounds beautiful.
All right. Do you have a fatherly lesson that you want to pass on to your kids from TV or movies you want to bring up?
Yeah. So both of the movies I chose are father-son movies.
Okay.
Relationship movies. And these movies were impactful to me and still are every time I watch them. And I know that I've talked the crap out of one of them, which I'll start with that one. One of my favorite movies ever is Big Fish. And the father-son relationship in that movie is, you come to find out, it's one of those movies where you don't know what it's about, and then at the end it all kind of comes together and you realize this movie was actually not kind of a fantasy fun, crazy Tim Burton film, but it was an emotional, gut-wrenching, make you cry at the end kind of a movie. And I mentioned this probably 2 months ago that I was in bed sobbing at 11:30 p.m. as I finished this movie for I don't know how many times I've seen it.
Yeah.
But, the the story is essentially a son who is bitter towards his father because he doesn't trust him, because the stories that he was told as a child about his father's life, he doesn't believe them. They're too fantastical. And they're about witches and giants and werewolves, and and he poses those things as if they really happened. And his son is resentful towards his father because he doesn't feel like he knows him. And therefore, how do you care about someone you don't know? And he must not care about me, and nothing's true. And the stories kind of begin to unwind, and you get into the psyche of the father, and you get into the psyche of the son, and what's important. And to me, at the end of the movie, the son kind of understands, recognizes, and realizes that the stories are part of who he is. They're part of his father's legacy. And come to find out that all of those stories are based on something that truly happened. And he tried to make the time he did have with his son fun, because the dad was a traveling salesman and was gone all the time and missed his birth. And he made up this crazy story about how he was born and how the doctors were whatever. And, at the end of the movie, he asks the doctor that delivered him what happened. And it was just like, oh, just came out and your dad was traveling and that was it.
Yeah.
And he realizes sometimes the crazy, fantastical side of stories are more worthwhile and longer lasting and can leave an impression. And so for me, what this movie is about the legacy that you want to leave behind as a father to your children and pass down through the generations. And, this father's legacy is the stories and the fun that he has with his son as a child. And so that's something that I've always really loved about this movie, but also I've really tried to emulate with my children, is being a storyteller, making things up, having fun with them when they're young, and infusing bits of myself and truth into these stories. Where Emmy, somebody might ask Emmy, Orlando eventually, right?
Right.
How did you and your mom meet? And you always jazz up stories, but without lying to your kids, but making it fun and enjoyable, and making sure that when they're young and impressionable, that you're telling them fun things too, that it's not, you don't treat them like they're 40, you treat them like they're 4.
Right. So, like, for instance, when Brita met me, she didn't want anything to do with me at first. And eventually, I turned her head around a little bit on that whole notion, and we got married and we got 2 kids. But, like, when the boys start getting old enough, they want to ask, how did we meet? I can milk this for all it's worth and be like, your mom didn't want to have anything to do with me, but I showed up all dressed debonair with a rose and poetry and and their mom's just gonna shake her head and be like, that's not what happened, he tricked me or whatever, and maybe I tell a story about how I tricked her with a magic potion or whatever, but they know that they see us together, they know that we love each other. But, you can embellish a little. I think that's a good thing as a dad, right? You embellish a little bit. You make it a more fantastical story for the kids without crossing the line of breaking the story by just completely lying about it. Because then you do lose trust.
Of course.
But, I like that. So the dad, who's played by Albert Finney, I don't remember what his name is in the movie, but I know Albert Finney, the dad in Big Fish.
Yep.
I gotta go back and watch that. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it paints a picture of an imperfect father who wishes he were better.
Yeah.
In reality, right? And this is him trying to make good on that. Is the stories he tells his son.
Yep.
And he insists that they're true. And anyway, it's super super emotional, and you kind of, the whole thing comes around. And sometimes even as me growing up, starting to unfold the lessons and things that my parents or tutors around me were trying to teach me, and I'm just getting them now.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a part of Big Fish, is the son is about to become a father, and that's why these feelings are stirred up in him, is he wants to be better than his dad, but he realizes I've turned out to be pretty dang good.
Right.
And my dad was a big part of that. So anyway.
All right. The first one I've got, which I feel bad like making this the first one because it is a tough one, I think, to compare a lot of fathers to, because this is like the gold, in my opinion, like one of the gold standards of fatherhood, is Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a great book, but there was a great movie that was made. Gregory Peck plays Atticus Finch. I mean, the American Film Institute has named his character in this movie the #1 hero of all time, above spies and above superheroes and above swashbuckling pirates or whatever. Yeah. He is the #1 hero, and it really is because his character fights for what's right. He stands up for what's right, and he teaches his children that the right way is the best way. And there's a lot of lack of integrity in portrayals of fathers, and there's a lot of just lack of integrity in society in general, where people don't always take the best way because they're like, well, this way's a faster way or this way's an easier way. But his stance is that the best way is the right way is the best way to do something. You don't take shortcuts. And so the lesson of the example of integrity in this movie is like he is defending a black man in the South during a time when everyone assumes that this man is black, assumes this man is guilty just because he's black. And this white woman makes a claim against him. And he basically gets harassed and persecuted in this small little southern town, and they call him all sorts of names and just mistreat him, and his children see this. But what he doesn't do is he doesn't cower, he doesn't kowtow to the mob mentality, he doesn't shirk from his responsibility, but he also doesn't lash out either. Like, he doesn't get loud and defensive. He just is calm, and he just turns the other cheek. He very much personifies the message in the New Testament of, when someone smacks you, turn the other cheek and offer the other side to them. And right. he basically is kind of this man who's just like, I'm going to let my actions do the talking. And he talks with his children about the difficult things that are going on, and he tells them, because they ask him like stuff like, Daddy, why not just do this? Why not just do that? And he says like, no, we're doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and it doesn't matter what other people say. It matters that you do the right thing, and you're doing the right thing even if other people don't agree with you. I love that example. I want to pass that on to my kids, that we do the right things because they're the right thing to do. We don't do the things that are just expedient. We don't do the things that'll just quickly get us to where we need to go next. We do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And whether that's something that is hard, it doesn't matter. It's the right thing, and so we should do it. It's a very much idealized version of what society should be and how fathers should teach their children. So I love Atticus Finch. It's a great movie, but man, he is an amazing father.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
Yeah,
that's a great choice.
Yep.
That's a good one. The next movie, the next thing from me is a movie, and this one is an interesting movie because it's a drama about a father and son hidden behind what you think is going to be a romantic comedy. Okay. And that movie is About Time.
Oh, I don't know if I know this movie.
With Rachel McAdams and what's that guy's? Domhnall Gleeson.
Domhnall Gleeson?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably came out 2007, maybe later. I don't actually know the exact date. But anyway, it's a time traveling movie where the father comes to the son and says, us as men in the family, we have the ability to go back to moments in time. You to go to a dark place, close your eyes, clench your fists, and you can go back there. And I mean, this is going to spoil the movie for you, but
Okay.
the whole thing is he wants to date. He learns about this power and he uses it to get the girl he wants. And there's a bunch of, so it's a romantic comedy for the first half of the movie, and you think that's what this movie is about. It's about him landing Rachel McAdams.
Okay.
And the follies along the way and the funny things that happen and how he can just leave the situation, go into a closet, close his eyes, and he's back to where he was before at the beginning of the day or whatever. And he can try it again and find out what works to woo her.
Okay.
And then you realize, wait, this movie's like halfway done and they're already married and they have 2 kids. So what is this movie about? And then you kind of start to realize what the movie's about when his father comes down with cancer and he eventually passes away after the second of his children are born. And for the next few years, the son will go back to visit his father.
Okay.
So he's able to go back and see his dad. And they have these conversations over and over again. He asks for advice from his dad, and they're playing ping pong. That's the memory he goes back to, is when they were playing ping pong. And the dad will always remember. He'll say, "Oh, you're back." And they have this conversation about what's going on in his life and how his children are and what's going on. And that continues to happen. He's able to revisit his father, and his father imparts tons of wisdom. And the relationship just gets exponentially stronger. And one of the things that I really liked that the dad said is that when he figured out he had this ability that his dad told him at 21 is when they tell their sons, he said, live every day twice. Once with the regular crazy, like day to day, like how am I going to survive this? And the next time you live that day, remember all of the sweet things. Don't pay so much attention to all of the noise because you already know that noise. So pay attention to the time you have with your family. Anyway, when it comes down to it, they realize throughout the thing that when he goes back to the present, if something has changed, so basically what this is, I mean, I'm explaining the movie basically.
Yeah.
But an event happens where when a child is born and you go back before that child was born, when you go back to the present, you either don't have a child or the child is not the same child because the events have been different. Conception of the child is different. The gender is different. The name is different. And so he's held off on trying to have a kid again, even though Rachel McAdams wants one, because he won't be able to go see his dad anymore.
Oh, gotcha.
And so anyway, the big emotional point of the movie at the very end is him going back to see his dad for the last time. And the conversation that they have and the memory they go back to is, they were on the beach when he was really young. So it's like Inception. They go double back in time.
Yeah.
And the whole point of the movie is in the title, about time. And the wisdom imparted by his father is spend more time with your family. And he reveals kind of at the end that once he found out he had cancer, he went back every single day to spend more time with his family, to basically extend his life. Yeah. To try and get as much time as he could, because he realized he wasn't as present as he wanted to be. And so every time I think about that movie, I get emotional and I remember that life is about spending time with the ones that we love most. And the people that we care about, our family, our children, for you and me, our friends, and cherishing those moments and not getting lost in my phone or what's going on with work or what's on TV all the time, enjoying the moments that we have playing with our kids, because we're never going to get those moments back and we can't go back in time. And so for me, that movie about that father-son relationship is so powerful and so poignant that the relationships that we form are what matters. And it's about the amount of time we spend and invest in those relationships that are going to be what impacts us through the rest of our life. And anyway, so that movie is amazing. That father-son relationship is fantastic. And they kind of teach each other that. It's beautiful.
I like that. My next one kind of goes the idea. I think the thing I want to pass on is almost identical to what you just said. But I'm going to go with George Bailey, the father from It's a Wonderful Life. And
So good.
I mean, right. I mean, so it's different in a way because George Bailey, he's consumed and focused on this idea of, keeping the building and loan going and helping people when there's a run on the bank, helping keep the community afloat and working through the Great Depression. No, not the Great Depression, because this was after the war, but helping people kind of keep under their their feet underneath of them and keep them working. And he focuses on getting people out of Potterville and into affordable homes, so they don't have to live in Mr. Potter's rundown tenements. And he's just so focused on his kind of career and what he's got going on in his life that when he has this tragedy where he loses this deposit, or his Uncle Billy technically loses this deposit of $8,000 that needed to go to the bank in order to help secure the loans that they have, and Mr. Potter is going to default him on his loans unless he sells his business to him, and he won't do it because it's his father's business and because Mr. Potter stands for everything that he's against. George Bailey is so focused in on his career, so focused in on what he's doing, that he actually wishes he'd never been born. And he gets this wonderful opportunity through Clarence, the angel, to see what everyone's life around them would have been like if he hadn't been there. And he realizes that by the end of this, that the world is actually a sadder place if he's not in it. And that his life touches the lives of others. And that more importantly, his wife ended up, living a very sad, lonely life. And his kids were never born. And so he really realizes that he has a really, truly good thing going for him. And so that the moral kind of is not to let your job or your money or stress or whatever distract you from what's right in front of you. And I look at my boys and I see that and I say, I want to be a good father for them. Yeah. I want to be a present father as much as I can be. I want to, if there's one thing I want to succeed in life, it's being a good dad. Because I find that I know so many people that you see them, they succeed in one aspect of their life, and they may be the best at it. They may be the Michael Jordan of the finance world, or they may be, the best actor or whatever. But they usually, in order to reach that kind of level of perfection, of craft in whatever they're doing, they usually have to sacrifice other aspects of their life. And so you hear that sometimes, these people that are such revered for whatever talent they may have or aspect of their life or a prowess in the realm of creating wealth, that they lack in other areas, and usually it's home life. Not always, and I don't want to blanket statement say everyone, but unfortunately that's way too often. And so I looked at the George Bailey example of I want to be present and aware of how good my life truly is, and I want to teach my boys to pay attention to what you're doing, pay attention to the good times you have, and make sure that if you do one thing right in life, it's being a good father, or even if you don't have kids, being a good role model, a mentor, pass on what you've learned, be present, and help the next generation, and don't take for granted what you have. That's what I want to pass on from George Bailey's example to my kids.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very similar to yours.
Yeah, very similar. So I don't have any more of the movie TV show.
I have one more if you want me to go, and then we can do the father
options.
The father ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great, go for it.
This one this is a little funnier, but this is Professor Henry Jones from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Okay.
And I thought of my dad as I was thinking about this one, and it's I remember as a kid, in a moment of stupidity and passion, saying something along the lines to my dad is, I never want to be like you. I want to be my own man. I just don't want to be just like you. I'm going to do things different. Right. And as I've gotten older, I see the obvious folly of that that line of thinking, because we are products and creatures of what we grow up around and the culture that surrounds us, right? But in this movie, we see Indiana Jones, who thinks he's nothing like his dad, who kind of resents his dad. But then you realize that Professor Henry Jones, the dad, was kind of a womanizer also. And he's really this smart archaeologist. And he also is able to, kind of be this swashbuckling hero. And so, of course, Indiana Jones realizes that he is taken all these good or these best traits from his father, and they are in him. And the father and the son are almost one and the same. It's this great storytelling, and you see it kind of play out, and it's just funny when you realize that Indy realizes what's really going on. And of course, Professor Henry Jones, the father, he knows this, he sees this, he's smart enough to know that, and it's not until when Indiana Jones gets that. I was much older in my life, my dad was gone, and I realize all the time that I do and say things and act in a way and mannerisms that my father used to do. And it was just yesterday I was opening up the Father's Day card, and I read it and I went, thanks, just kind of put it down. But it was just the tone and the way I kind of went, okay, thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah. But it was just the way that I said it. For a moment, I heard my father say it. And so the lesson that I want to pass on from Henry Jones and Indiana Jones onto my kids is, boys, no matter how crazy you think your life may be, the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree. Take a good look at your old man right now and soak it all in, because I hate to tell you, you're going to be just like me. And I see it all the time in both of my boys in so many different ways. And I know they're going to think that they're going to be nothing like me at one point. And I hope, Matt, I am around when they come to the realization that they're going to be just like me, because I'm going to say, yeah, I know the feeling. I had that moment too. So anyway, I want to teach them that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and you're pretty much stuck on this Stapleton tree.
You get what you get, man. Yep. That's awesome. That's awesome.
All right, now let's go to something your father taught you that you want to pass on to your kids, and something my dad taught me.
Yeah, so my dad's great. Love my dad. He's awesome. One of the things that it was... My dad is one who leads by example. And something that I always thought about and knew immediately, even when I was a kid, that this was important, and this is something I also wanted to do, was my father embracing and supporting my interests and my hobbies and my passions. Obviously, a lot of those he shared with me. If it came to sports, he was all in. I mean, he taught me to love sports. I grew up sports, eating, breathing, drinking, basketball in particular. That was important to him and important to me. But as I grew older, what still strikes me today is I'm decent at basketball, but I was never going to be on varsity. Okay, in high school, I'm 5'10". It's just not going to happen.
Right.
And I remember when I made the freshman B team, and I was so excited. I was so happy. And whether my game was at home or away, no matter what time of day it was, my dad did not miss a game ever. Not once. That whole season. The only season that I played basketball. After that, I just was done. Yeah. And he did not miss a game ever. And our games are played at 3:00 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Right out of school, that's dedication. You play. Yeah. Your freshman B team, and you play in the crappy gym at every school. And he came every game. My mom came as often as she could, but my dad went to every game. And that was, as I look back on it, I realize how impressive that is, especially when he had 6 kids.
Wow.
And I was just one of 6. And that will always be important to me. The other thing that is important to me, and that he spent a lot of, I'll just say it, he spent a lot of money helping me cultivate this, was my passion for music. And I, like all kids, kind of finicky and fickle when it came to committing to something. Whether that was, oh, Dad, I want to try this. Mom, I want to try this. I want to be this. I want to play this. They took a gamble on the guitar for me because that was what I wanted to do at 13 years old. And my dad has probably put thousands of dollars into guitars and lessons and recording equipment to help support my passion. Lucky for him that that's something that I still do today.
Right.
Something that I still have a passion for. But I will always love my father for what he sacrificed, both in terms of time as it pertains to basketball, whether that's teaching me how to play when I was young and then going to every game. I still can't believe that. He went to every game of a freshman B team where I didn't even start. I played every game. I was a sixth man. But it's still impressive to me. And then the amount of time and money he put into cultivating my passion for music. And so what I want to do as a father is something similar. I think a lot of times I see fathers and mothers get a little jaded with their kids saying, oh, you want to do this and it's going to cost me more time and more money and you're not going to stick with it. You haven't stuck with anything else. I mean, that was the story of my life at 13. I hadn't stuck with anything.
Right.
But I hope to be like my dad in that he always supported and embraced the things that I wanted to try and the things that I wanted to do no matter what it was. And that's something that I will always take with me that he just did. I mean, I never really had to beg. I never asked him to come to every game. He just did it because he knew it was important to me and it was important to him because it was important to me. So anyway, that's something that I'll always love.
Nice. I think it's something that you'll pass on. Yeah.
Absolutely. I hope so. I hope I can be as good as he was at that. That's something that, you know, that you hope you can measure up to. Some things about your dad, you're like, yeah, I'm going to be better than you with that. There's no doubt in my mind.
Right. And then there's other times you look at that yardstick and you're like, there's no way.
I can't measure, right? I can't measure to that commitment. So I hope that I can.
Yeah. I get that. And I think that's a very common feeling, Matt. Like, because I know I feel that way too. Like there's things that my dad did that I look at and I go, yeah, I think I can do better, and I think I am doing better. Then there's other things I go, man, if I'm a tenth of what my dad could do there, I would consider that most people would consider that a success. I look at it and go, ooh, geez, I'm only a tenth of the man my father was in this respect. And so I think that's a very common feeling for someone who grew up with a very strong, good father figure. I was lucky in that I got to spend the most time with my dad than any of my siblings. I'm the oldest, and so my brother's about 2.5 years younger than me. So yes, I got to spend 2.5 more years with my dad before my dad passed, but it also meant that when my dad passed, I was older. I'd had more opportunities to speak with my dad as an adult, not just as a kid, which obviously I did, but I can specifically think back to like times as a teenager, get into my late teenage years where I would come home from doing something and I'd been out late and my dad wasn't waiting up for me because my parents never waited up for me. They figured my dad's rule was you can stay out as late as you want as long as you're up in the morning to do the things you need to do by the time you need to do them. So there was times when I would come rolling in on a Sunday morning at literally like 7:45, 8 o'clock, and he'd look at me and say, church is at 9:30. You're going to be sitting right next to me. I'd say, absolutely, Dad. And oh man, was it a struggle to stay awake during church sitting right next to my dad, and I'm just dying because I stayed out all night. And I was paying for it, and my dad knew I was paying for it. And he just sat there, I think, in like utter like satisfaction just watching me suffer. But that was his rule, right? That was his rule. But there was a few times as I started getting older where I'd come in late Dad wasn't waiting for me, wasn't waiting up for me, but he was just still up, and he was in we had this little office area, just kind of off our dining room. It was just this little small kind of wood-paneled room, so it was a little darker in there, and he'd be sitting at the computer, and he'd be doing something for work, or he'd be, browsing AOL back then, because this was in the AOL days. And I remember I'd walk in, and I just, say something like, "Hey, Dad, how's it going?" And he'd say, "It's fine. How was your night?" And I'd say it was good. And then, Dad and I would just start kind of talking about something. And it was usually in these moments, not always in these moments, sometimes it was in car rides just between the two of us. After I came home from my mission, I worked for my dad, and we'd take car rides, and it would just be the two of us for 2 hours, 2.5 hours in Chicago traffic. And so we just get times to talk about life lessons and, things to look forward to in life. And so I consider myself very, very grateful that I know I had a lot more opportunities than my siblings. More opportunities than my brother, who's only 2.5 years younger than me, and then definitely opportunities that my sisters didn't get to have. But I would have these moments with my dad where he would talk to me, and I very, very vividly remember my dad telling me one time, he said, "I want to tell you something, and when I tell you this, don't think that I'm saying there's any problems, but I want you to know that marriage is hard. You're going to find someone, you're going to be excited to get married, you're going to think, it's all these wonderful things that you see on TV and movies." And he says, and that is true. You will have those moments. You will have, very romantic moments, and, you'll propose, and it'll be picture perfect. He says, but marriage is also real, and it's messy, and you're trying to find a way to take your life and someone else's life and put them together. You're not always going to see eye to eye. There's going to be times when you're going to have to come up with compromises. You're going to have to, find ways to try to work through issues. You're going to end up having kids, and then your life kind of shifts and becomes, more about the kids than necessarily your relationship. And he's like, marriage is hard. He's like, it's worth every moment of it. He says, but I want you to understand that even though it's hard, he says, you chose that person to be with. Whether that's good, whether that's bad, you made that choice. And he says, and Spence, Stapletons, we don't give up. He says, don't just give up because things get hard. He says, if your marriage gets hard, don't give up. Work harder. Do more. Admit you're wrong. Don't let your pride stand in the way. And I know that my dad understood that I was a prideful young man and a very stubborn young man. And, that softened some, but I still have that inside me. It's part of who I am. And my dad knew that. And he was trying to teach me that lesson that, look, you've got some great things coming ahead of you, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And that you're going to have to work. And sometimes it can be work. And I'm saying this, and I'm definitely not saying in any way, shape, or form that I'm struggling in my current marriage, because I'm not. Brita and I are fine. But it is something though that it meant a lot to me. So that there's times when I'm with Brita and maybe we're having an argument, maybe we're disagreeing on something, disagreement over when we pull the tooth. Do we pull it now? Do we wait? These doctors say this. These, and we're kind of not on the same page. And I just remember just because it's messy, just because it's hard, just because it can be difficult, doesn't also mean it's not rewarding, and that you just have to persevere and do what you need to do to push past the tough times so that you can really enjoy all the good times. And that's something that I've been in small ways, because I can't talk about marriage with my kids right now. They're too young.
Sure.
But I'm trying to instill them this idea that Stapletons, and I'm trying to play on the Stapleton pride here a little bit because they're Stapleton boys and they have my name, but say, Stapletons don't give up. We don't give up when it's hard. We try to find another avenue that you can go down to solve a problem. Try to figure out, just because things are rough doesn't mean you give up on it. Don't fight with your brother and tell him you never want to see him again because he destroyed something in your Minecraft world. That's ridiculous. Don't fight over that. But we don't give up. We work really, really hard at things. And the harder you work at something, the more value you're going to get out of it. I'm trying in small ways to instill that in them because it's something it's a lesson that I picked up from my dad. And I think it's worthwhile to know that. Especially Super Friends, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're not married and you're thinking like, oh man, it's going to be all lollipops and sunshine and rainbows. There is that. Then there's also, when you gotta, hold your wife's hand and she's having a baby and she's screaming at you, "You did this to me." It's not exactly a great moment. You're like, oh man, whew, I'm in the doghouse here. But anyway,
yeah.
All kidding aside, it's a good lesson. It's something that stuck with me through many, many, many years, and I still continually think about that, from time to time.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So
definitely.
So anyway, thankfully, Matt, I kind of got through that without breaking down and crying, because I swear,
yeah, you did good.
I start thinking about my dad, and it gets real hard, and Father's Day and things like that, but Super Friends, we've told you some of the advice we've picked up from TV and movie fathers, and then some from our own. Our question to you is, what is advice? Because I think this, gosh, like we need to flood positive. We need to flood great advice out there, get it on the social medias so that other people can hear something that they haven't heard before. Or maybe they didn't have a father or a role model and they could use some of this advice. The question of the week is, what is some dad advice, a dad lesson that you've picked up, whether it's from TV, movies, or whether it's your own personal experience with your own father, stepfather, father-in-law, whatever, that you would like to pass on to your kids or pass on to a future generation. And it can be simple, it can be easy, it can be long, I don't care. Get us those answers, fortofnerd@gmail.com. That's our email address. Facebook.com/fortofnerd is Facebook. Twitter @fortofnerd, Instagram fortofnerd, or you can call in and leave us a voicemail message and we will listen to that. And that's 801-477-7687. And we will talk about those next week. Now, next week is going to be interesting, Matt, because we are actually going to be recording together in person.
Well, no.
Oh, are you not going to be up there then yet?
We won't be there till Tuesday.
Oh, so we're going to... Oh, well, I guess technically we could record it on Tuesday when you're there.
Yep, we could definitely do it on Tuesday. Yeah,
we'll
probably pull in at about dinner time.
Well, the nice thing will be is that I don't have to work and do all the other stuff around, so we can record and I can edit and make it happen.
Record whenever we want.
We can record and do whatever we want. It's our
middle
podcast.
Of the freaking day.
That's right. Although it might be kind of still hard to find.
No, that would be impossible. That'd be way harder to record in the middle.
You know what's going to
happen?
happen? We'll end up recording in the middle of the day probably, but we're going to end up being like out in the garage doing this where no one's going to find us.
We'll be at the hardware store.
Right.
I don't know where we could do this.
Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Awesome.
Maybe downstairs in the back bedroom or something, because we can close it. Yeah, we're gonna have to logistics. We'll have to figure it out. Anyway, Super Friends, we're excited. We're gonna get to be able to record 2 episodes together live and get those out to you here in the next 2 weeks, which will be fun. Matt and I are taking a little bit of time away from our normal day today, and we hope that everyone's doing well. And so, from all of us tonight here at the Fortress of Nerditude, to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you, always.